Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified when new videos are released. You'll want to be notified for the new videos. The block today is Richmond, and it's 12-inch finished. Here is the diagram, and here is what the blocks look like set 4 together. Patch A is a 4-inch finished half square triangle, and for today's demo we're going to do the 2 at a time method to make the half square triangles. The A patches are these corner units, the half square triangles in each of the 4 corners. You have 3 choices of how to make these half square triangles. The first one is to use your rotary cutter and cut 4 7/8 inch squares. Then cut the squares in half on the diagonal. That will give you 2 patches. You'll need 4 patches of each of the background and the red. So you'll have to cut 2 squares, cut each square in half diagonal. The method I'm going to demonstrate today is the 2 at a time half square triangles. So in this case, you cut the squares to the same size, but you do not subcut them. The third method is if you have Quilt, you can use these dies to cut the shapes, and you will be cutting patches. So we'll have 4 patches of each of these if you're using Quilt or rotary cutting your patches, or 2 squares of each if we're doing half square triangles 2 at a time. And you will see that when we put it together. Patch B is a 2-inch finished half square triangle. Now these patches are not going to be made into half square triangles. So we'll cut 2 7/8 inch squares, cut each square in half once on the diagonal, and we'll have 2 patches. The B patches, if we look closer at this side unit, it's a 4-patch unit set on point, and then the B patches are in the corners of this 4-patch unit. When we cut these B patches, we're going to cut patches. We have to have little triangle pieces to sew in these corners. There are 4 of the side units. You'll cut 2 7/8 inch squares, cut each square in half on the diagonal, and you'll have 2 patches. You'll need 8 patches of the background and 8 patches of the blue fabric. That means you will need to cut 4 of these squares. Cut each one in half diagonally to get your 8 patches. Here are the Quilt dies you can use if you want to use your Quilt. Patch C is the center square, this big square in the center, and it's a 4-inch finished square. We'll cut 4 1/2 inch square. We just need 1 patch of the lighter blue. Here are the Quilt dies if you have Quilt. I just found a mistake as I was recording this. Patch D is a 1 3/8 inch finished square. These are the 4 patches in the side units. For patch D, you can cut squares, but I'm going to show you how to do strip piecing to make the 4 patches. It goes a little bit faster and it's easier to handle since these squares are so small. If you're cutting squares, you're going to cut 1 7/8 inch squares. You'll need 8 patches of the white and 8 patches of the gold color. We are going to cut strips 1 7/8 inch wide by about 16 inches. You get a little extra here. Here are the fabrics. This is patch A, and we have our 2 large squares. We're going to do half square triangles 2 at a time, and these are the corner units. This is the center square that goes in the very center of the block. These are the strips I cut for the strip piecing of the 4-patch units. I had a layer cake, so I cut 2 strips for that, and then I had a fat quarter and I cut 1 strip. So these are all going to be jumbled up, but we're going to sew these together like this, and I'll just add this one on here. So 1/4 inch, press the seams open, and then we'll subcut these to 1 7/8 inches. We'll need 8 total patches for the 4-patch units. We'll do those now, and we'll also do the half square triangles 2 at a time. If you're not familiar with that method, stay tuned for a short tutorial that shows you how to do it. On the back side of the light fabric, we're going to draw a diagonal line, put the fabrics together, right sides together, and we're going to stitch on either side of the diagonal line. Here is the diagonal line drawn, and then the stitching on both sides. Now we cut this in half along the diagonal line. Then we have our 2 half square triangles. Press the seams open and cut off the nubs. The half square triangles are done, and the strip piecing has been pieced and pressed, and I used my little scraps here. For subcutting these, we have to subcut them to 1 7/8 inches. I'm going to use my simple 7/8 ruler from Creative Grids. The markings are at 7/8, 1 7/8, 2 7/8. It's for cutting triangle pieces, but it will work for this. So I trimmed off my edge to make it even. Now I'm going to put 1 7/8 on the edge here, and then line up one of these horizontal lines along the seam line. Then I'm going to cut 8 of these. Now we'll put these together, sew them together like this into 4 patches, and we'll have 4 of these units. We have our 4 patch units done, and now we're going to stitch the triangles around all 4 sides. You have to watch the placement of these fabrics. If you look at the diagram, you'll see that the white patches are pointing out from the center of the block. So you'll need to have the blues in the lower corners and the background in the upper corners. Here's our patch, and this would be pointing out, so we have the blue here. Next we will add a blue here. But when we stitch these, we're going to stitch opposite ends first, just to keep things in order. So if we take this, we know we'll need a blue here and then a background here. Now this blue, I hope it don't confuse you, but I cut this with the folded corner clipper, and so this point is cut off. Don't let that confuse you. When you piece these together, once you know which one you're piecing, you're going to line up this edge here, and then this point of the triangle should be right here at this seam line. Then you know you're centered, or you can just center it, but you'll know you're centered if it's pointing right here at the seam line. Stitch 1/4 inch, and just make sure you have a good 1/4 inch, because you don't have anything to guide you here except your 1/4 inch. And do the same thing with this. We'll have to flip this out of the way and find the center, so the point of this triangle will point to this seam line, and then stitch both. And here's what they look like once both of them are stitched. These little nubs here on the edges, we're going to cut them off straight with the edge of the 4 patch. Okay. Now, I always position it how I want it. So I've got my white fabrics pointing out, and I know I'm going to have to put a blue down here. So that will go like this. Match the centers again. The center here, and then the edge along here. Now when you stitch this one, for the blue and for the background fabric over here, you'll have a little guide. When you stitch the second round to the 4 patch unit, then your 1/4 inch will be right here at this point. So you'll start here at this point, stitch 1/4 inch, and then come out. Now again, this was cut with the folded corner clipper, and it came right out at the point. So let me just turn this around, and you can see how this came right out at the point too, right where that V, the fabric makes a V. Then you know that when you press it, you'll have a nice straight edge on both sides. So do this for all 4 of your 4 patches, and then we'll put the block together. Units are done, So we'll just put the block together. Sew the units into rows, 3 rows, then sew the rows together. Don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell to be notified when new videos are posted. Thank you for watching.